Craig, honoured to have you on our very first podcast. Firstly, obviously, it's nice to introduce you. You were my first ever client in 2015, so you gave me that opportunity 10 years ago now. It's great to have you on the first podcast. From what I know, obviously, you started your life in business in waste management and sold that out in 2005, 2006. So yeah, tell us a bit about your journey, why you got into that. Did you always want your own business?
To be honest, yeah, thank you, T. No, I'd say my background would be different. I certainly didn't adhere to be a businessman. No chance. In fact, I'm one of the. If I ever write a book, it'll be called One of the Lads. I'd rather be with the lads and be happy. And sports been my thing, my life. I was playing football at school. I want a very good student.
You said you could have been pro at football.
Well, my mates would probably say opposite. You know, I certainly went to 2 or 3 clubs, but I got told I wasn't good enough for all 3, so I not just once. I think I left school at 15, which wouldn't happen now. The teacher, Mr. Wood, the headmaster, had said to the Hatfield Eye, he just said, look, he's a good kid, but he's getting involved in a little bit. And if we let him go, his dad will employ him.
Yeah.
I mean, now that wouldn't be allowed, but my dad wrote in and said he's got a guaranteed job in our waste paper factory. So I would at work at 15 with grown men, and that were an eye on that. I went from, I can't describe it now, I try and tell people the background, but to go into that environment, 60, 70 workers in the middle of Goole. Yeah. And Goole's a rough place, you know, when it was just manual work and
factory environment.
Yeah, we recycled waste paper. Our biggest customer was Kleenex tissue, which were Kimberly Clark, and we produced the paid from all over Yorkshire. Yeah. Brought it back, baled it, sent it on the Arctics, and that's what we did. And we had
So how many guys you have working for you at the time?
Well, Dad had probably 60, 70. And I just happy. My dad used to call me Arthur Scargill. He thought I was the lads' champion. He always thought that I backed the workers all the time against the family. I probably did. I had a bit of that in me where I'd just like, if I didn't think something were right, I'd be like this. But we learned to graft. You had to graft 10, 11 hours. There was none of this. You never had the warm stuff. Now the health and safety. It was as cowboyish as you've ever seen. Most laughs I've ever had in my life, like the laughs.
Some life lessons there as well.
Yeah, in madness, there's laughter, and we had a great time. It was a family business.
Yeah.
So it was the first time I'd ever seen people take work on with them. Yeah. So Dad didn't finish. Dad'd be sat in the kitchen telling my mum we'd had a bad week, whereas we weren't bothered. You're leaving on Friday. I were out at 15. You know, in them days, you were out at 15 in the nightclubs. You were at it because you were working. But I used to watch Dad at weekend and think, oh God, look at the toll it has on him. So that were always in the back of my mind. If I wanted to do it, I saw what effect it had on Mum and Dad. I think they remortgaged the house twice in that 10-year period. So imagine coming home and saying to your wife, my mum said, you know, the business has got to go in, the house has paid for it, the business has paid for the house. Yeah. Now the house has to give back. So you're signing your house.
So on paper and on the look of it, it's a successful business, big client, loads of staff. You thought, you know, you're in your dad's business, but you see what a lot of people don't see behind the scenes of running a business is the cost you put in, the impact it has on weekends, family time, those type of things. Yeah.
It were harsh. It were harsh because you never leave it, do you? You never leave it. So I can say we could go at weekend and that had a massive toll. And anybody who's worked for the parents, I'd tell them, don't do it. And Joe works for me now. So, you know, I've said the opposite, but it were hard. Because she'd be sat taking it on with you every night. And that relationship of mum and dad were different. It certainly was different for me. And then I was sat there one day and we got the worst news ever as a family. My dad had some moves. Yeah. Just like, I like to think it's a family thing. You've got that bit of thing about you, like where you walk in a room and the spark had gone out. And we couldn't work out why. I just thought it was stress. And then he said, we took him to every hospital and it were elimination. So we got to Pinderfields and then they said, in Wakefield, they said it's motor neurone disease. Oh, God. And I just watched the Don Revie. I just got the Don Revie book who had it famously, the Leeds coach. I knew within a second it
wasn't good news. No.
Yeah.
So you had to step up quite early then.
Oof.
How old were you?
I'd been about 26, so it wasn't too early, if I'm honest. But I'd never wanted it. My brother was destined for stardom. Yeah. My brother loved it. He loved everything about having his own business. He loved everything about being in charge of people's business plans
Yeah.
I was coming out at night. You know, I'll be honest. I remember I was married at 20-year-old, and
Yeah.
you know, I was still. We were playing football. We were partying. I wanted
You
to
were
be
enjoying life.
Yeah. I'd lived abroad for a bit. You know, in between, I'd gone and lived 6 months with my friend. We'd gone partying, fantastic times. But I'd have been if you'd have got 20 people and said, who's going to make the superstar, you know, or the businessman, Carl, and including me, who's definitely not going to do what they'd say.
Correct.
The losing dad was a shock. That made me just switch. And I went, oof. And I was very vulnerable with mum. Yeah. I didn't know how much debt my dad had. I didn't know what position the company was in. Yeah. So we sold the company. We had to get rid of all the debt, roll it into one. We had to sell the factory. I handed my mum. But I don't want getting paid. So I had no money. And I had a 3-bed detached house, which in them days were 40 grand. And I was panicking, thinking I've never signed on, but I might have to. And I'm making sure my mum, rolled my mum's money up and said to mum, it's there for you, mum. Take that away with you. My mum moved into a smaller house. She had £500,000 in them days with a lot of money.
Wow,
And she never worked, you know.
So she was comfortable.
That made me happy. And it gave me, you know, trying to negotiate out of a deal that Dad had signed a phone deal for 5 years and Bobcats and forklifts. And I'm like, what's fine? I didn't even know what finance was. So what's this? Doncaster, we call it Chucky. So it's like, you're like, you mean Chucky? And you say, yeah, that means you owe. Yeah. Why is my dad paying? My dad's got 200 grand in bank. Why is he paying £500 a month for it? Why did you just pay cash? Yeah. Well, it was everything. It was on a lot of things.
Cash flow.
And I think they'd said cash flow, and like you'd understand it now. Tax. So you wanted some bills coming back into reduce your tax bill. It were all this. I was like, wow.
He was doing it in the early days, because back then as well, a lot of people didn't do finance on
never.
Mode. Everyone did buy it outright.
It
wasn't really heard of, was it? Like now it's 95% or even probably higher.
But there were no limited companies.
No.
So if you went and they took your house off you, well, you know, you couldn't just put a direct headship and just do what they did. When they changed the laws and everyone started learning that, but Dad in them days would have just had if it went under it with everything you had.
Went with him. Yeah.
So that was a big turn in my life. Yeah. I then got asked, weirdly, I thought I wanted to go and work for a big company. Just thought, right, I can waste. And I was so happy to do it.
Waste, in what you knew as well.
And I'd gone to a company called Onyx, which is quite big. They've bought out now. And it's the only time I've been for a job interview. And very nervous. Not even for me, and I'm absolutely nuts. So I'm sat there.
You're a confident guy.
You know it. So I'm sat there, and I went to the interview. I'll never forget it, called Graham Marks, the guy. And he learned me a big lesson. He said to me, why should we employ you? I'm probably the wrong person to that, because I give him it. I said, well, I've watched what you do and you don't make money. And I think I can make money.
Yeah.
I said, we made more money than you with the paper factory, what we did in this. You've got...
And you learned all that experience at
12 million turnover and you don't make money. And he's like, how do you know? I said, well, I've done a bit of it anyway. He said to me, I thought, you know what my humor's like, you know, it's great. He said to me, what you like on computers? I goes, I'm brilliant at FIFA World Cup, you know. I thought it was a bit of a line, and everything I said was going down worse.
Oh, no.
And I just said, on me, but this is true. I said, taxi for Harrison. I actually said it in the middle into it. I went, you know what, taxi for Harrison. Strolled out and never went back. I never got to know whether I got offered it. It just wasn't for me. I'd put the first time I'd seen what the other side would like to work, either not for yourself or family.
Then for you, you realised you didn't want to work for anyone else.
No chance. Maybe now, I'm a lot older, but then to headstrong, absolute no chance. Yeah. You know, it made me have a light bulb.
Was that then, I'm going to do it my own, do it myself?
Yeah, and I hope this is great for, I was looking to see you in your first sort of 12, 15 months and seeing, you know, brilliant to watch us, because I saw myself in you and James, where you'd watch you and you were so confident. I always said you were the most confident lads I'd ever seen, especially in that, I used to call it that Leeds bubble, but you had that jive about you. You were never going to be a loss because you'd made your minds up that you were going to do this. You didn't seem scared about anything. I look back and I think I were like that. I think you've got to be. So.
You've got to be positive with yourself, but not, I think not arrogant. We were confident that we could do it. And if people backed us and believed in us, we knew that we could build a business, but you have to believe in yourself, don't you?
But if I were betting, I'd have said, you know, you'd done, and this has not surprised me. If people who know me, what I'd said about you, I said it's the confidence. I've never seen it like, and we call it the bubble effect.
Yeah.
I think you were wrapped in a bubble.
Yeah, probably.
And you were like, no one can get in that bubble because we're going to do everything we want.
And,
which is brilliant, because if you don't surround yourself, where I'm from in South Yorkshire, sometimes there is a negativity. We're mining stock. We're from miners. So if I meet somebody straight away, I'm looking through them and I'm saying,
you think of the worst case.
Yeah, what you after? So coming to Leeds and Harrogate and all that, that's totally different.
Yeah.
Because I've never heard anybody till I come Leeds said to me, "What do you do for a living?" We'd have killed somebody. You just were not allowed to say that to me. You'd be like, "What's going to do with you?" Why are you asking me that? You need to know me as a person.
I love that. I always ask people that question. I'm always intrigued to know about people and what they do.
Yeah. So we always found that. But it was a massive eye opener for me. And I just, sure, like yourself, set up in my bedroom.
Yep.
Come up with a light bulb idea that I could do waste management. But the thing we lost the money on was that we had skips, vehicles, machinery. And I didn't want any. I didn't want that hassle. We'd have a brilliant week.
Because it was an overhead.
And if a wagon breaks down on a Friday, all your profit is gone. So I used to watch my dad's face on a Friday. He'd say, "Oh, this wagon's gone down." He'd be like, "That's going to cost $2,500. That's my profit."
Yeah.
Can I run it without having anything? And at the time, no one did it. And I said, "Well, I can, because I could control all that, but just get other people to do it."
So nowadays, people
everywhere
don't own it. They don't own their vehicles.
So the waste management sector now would be people will go and. So I said to my first client were Nestle round trays. I mean, I'm very lucky that I had the guts to go to Nestle's. Told them I got a £12 million company behind me.
You did, kind of.
I'd park my Fiesta round corner. You know what I mean? In them days, that's what you did.
Yeah.
And I just knew when I got inside, all I kept saying to my mate was, if I get inside, I'll get the job. I just need to get through them gates. And I got through the gates. A lovely man called Chris Greenway. I never forgot him. Never will forget him. Always been on my mind. He said, "You've got something about you." And I said, "Yeah, but you've got all this. I can run all this." I said, "You've got 8 different companies." And he said, "Well, how can you run it?" I said, "Well, I can run it from my company, Yorkshire Waste Management. And all you do is phone me. I'll control everything." And he looked at me and he couldn't believe what I was saying. And I said, "Yeah, just so." But he didn't know that.
Did you know you could do it? Or were you blagging it at the time just to
No, I had a good idea, because I knew that I could just hire the people he had, but I could get a better rate off them.
Okay.
So that, and I also had other people who were cheaper than the ones he had in.
Yeah.
So I just literally moved all his waste out. I run it, and he said, "Brilliant, I just ring Yorkshire Waste."
Yeah, another stress off there. Yeah.
And we took everything on then. I think I kept maybe 1 or 2 of the companies he had, and I can remember him once saying, "Bloody same company." Yeah, but I'm 15 quid cheaper than you know what I mean?
I'm running it better for you. Yeah,
he wasn't bothered because his price stayed, or it would have been cheaper, and he thought he had no hassle then.
Yeah.
How quick I did it was sensational, because I was actually in my office, which was my bedroom.
Yeah.
So they used to ring up for 4 exchanges a day, and I'd worked out on making 30 quid an exchange.
Yeah.
So straight away I'm making like £100 a day, 5-6 days a week.
Yeah.
That were it. I didn't want another job. I was just keeping that job, earning £500 a week.
Yeah.
Pay mortgage, could go back out. That's my mentality. With nothing big, there was no big dreaming. It was just like, wow. And I was so happy. I used to walk around with shorts on, thinking this is it. And I was probably forced. And I hope if we give people ideas, and not everyone's born to be that dream about being that person. Yeah. I just wanted to pay things off and wanted to have a nice holiday and clothes.
So you didn't dream about having a successful business and
no chance.
And everything else that came with it.
Because I'd only see that as stress.
Yeah.
I didn't see that as being like, Dad used to say to me, "If you ever believe in yourself, God help them." He said, "God help them. Yeah. You will take the world on." Yeah. I said, "I don't want to, Dad. I'm happy. I was always happy." So I never wanted to be that. And then again, it like a forced situation. You've met Steve Burdett.
Yeah.
And I'd said to Steve, who was a quantity surveyor at Beezer Homes.
Okay, yeah.
It's a national builder.
Yep.
And I'm talking to him at football, and I'm like, yeah. And he goes, I said, "Who does your waste at your building?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know. We've got used all these companies." I goes, "What do you mean you do?" So I learned that day what QS was.
Yeah.
QS had the power.
Yeah.
So he was in charge of £5 million worth of spend.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I know does your skips? And he goes, this. I said, "Could I do it?" "How could you do it?" "Same thing as round trees.
Yeah.
You only have to ring me. I can do all your sites."
Yeah.
And how much for your charge? I said, "I can get you that done for 90 quid and that for 170 quid. Well, that's cheaper than what we're getting." I said, "Yeah." "Well, you haven't got a wagon." "Well, it's not your business.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
There you go.
Wow.
We rolled out nearly within 5 years. We had, I don't want to say, I don't want to sound like an idiot.
No, same numbers. Yeah, it's
crazy.
interesting.
We're crazy numbers what we did.
Yeah.
And we did 4 national builders all over the country. We did like all their contract. Yeah. So we would, at the end, you know, the 15-year run we had, I think it was like, I don't know, maybe 500 skips a day. We were doing muck shifting. We're not our wagons. Aggregates, we're not our wagons. We controlled utilities. Yeah. We became, you know, I think it finished off at like 18, 19 million. It was crazy.
19 million turnover a year.
Yeah, it was crazy. I don't know what the last figures were, but I think we just got a load of contract before we sold out. That's amazing. And it had kicked into another world.
So you went from wanting to just do a daily job, making 4 phone calls, paying your way, to running a £20 million business.
Yeah, it wasn't there. You know, it was 4 or 5 that were just building. I'm sure, like yourself, like every year,
word of mouth.
You're getting scared again. Who motivates the motivator? I used to sit there thinking, we've all got the what's it called? The syndrome when you can read about it, psychology. Yeah. So you're looking at yourself in mirror when no one's there, and you're thinking, "Oh, am I kidding? Oh, am I kidding? How am I getting away with this?" And then you're meeting other business people, and you're thinking, I used to think I'm cleverer than him. Straight away, I'm better than him. So I'm not
doing all right.
Yeah. So the things I were having doubts about, I was thinking, wow, anything I turn my hand to, I'm quite good at. Yeah. So you think you're indestructible, don't you? But when I first got an accountant in Leeds, I'd never had an accountant in Donny, but they were just the mates. You know what I mean? I ain't doing all right. So you've got 300 or 400 grand in bank. That's how they used to talk. Yeah. And then I can remember him coming and saying, "You're not limited." What does that mean? And he said, "Well, if you went bankrupt or some company took you, you're going to lose everything. We need to protect you." Yeah. And he looked in my profits and he said, "Why is the, I'm not going to mention figure, why is there this figure in there? Have you not done all with it?" I said, no. I said, "I look at it.
You like it accumulating."
You know it. I said, he said, "Well, you're not taking any wages." I said, "I do. I take this much, the cash, and all that." So, and he couldn't believe that I'd got my business, so we call it cockeyed. It was the opposite of what I should have been doing. Yeah. I should have been drawing big divvies.
You weren't tax efficient. There was all that. You're just going with the flow.
But he said, he goes, "You've got best business I've ever seen. Yeah. Like I've never seen a business earning money like this with no overheads." And then I started to think. So I went to Leeds and I started meeting people in Leeds. I met them business lads in Leeds. And that were it. They were like, I needed that. I needed to what I said about you earlier on in James. Yeah. That was seeing them. There were about 5 or 6 of them, and they were just. I can remember sitting at Ellen Road, and my mate LSS Nigel. Yeah, he'd sponsored everything there, and he had a better car than Rio Ferdinand, and he did. He had a blacked out S-Class, and they all wore overcoats with suits. Yeah, Donny lads had tight t-shirts, and we were a bit. Not saying we were a bit trendier than them, but they were.
She was chalk and cheese.
There were 3. They'd have these jackets on, and I used to watch him, and the way he walked out, and the park in his car, and did I want a piece of that? Then it was aimed. I was about 32 when I was thinking, this is something we want to do.
So why did you sell out in the end? Why did you?
I didn't enjoy it. I didn't.
Yeah.
I used
to running the business and people.
I love my people. I love my workers. I love the people I dealt with. I just didn't want to be that person. I never saw any happiness in somebody having 40, 50 million. Yeah. I never saw it unless I just saw.
You did well.
Yeah, we did. But I did, but I didn't do as well as I should. Being kind to me. Yeah. There were 5 people benefited from. I didn't just take it for myself. If I went, whatever happens, you're getting
something. Yeah.
There were 4 millionaires come out of that.
Wow.
So it was like bang, bang, bang. Yeah. We designed it to all have a good time together. Yeah. I could have been a lot more greedy. Looking back now, I think I'd
would have changed it.
You know it. No. Looking back now, I was very kind, did the right thing. And Dad had always said, and Mum, the man in the mirror, you do the right thing. And I did. So definitely want money infuriated why I sold out. They came in to us out, and they bought my biggest competitor out. Yeah. A company called Wastefile. Yeah. And I knew Wastefile in that 18-month period were going to be, when you've been bought out, you're not hungry. No. I said, we're going to hit them and they'll buy us out. Yeah. Because they won't get the figures off Wastefile they need to pay the debt.
They'll need you.
They'll need some more profit. Yeah. So we absolutely hit them with everything we can. And they came. Amazing. I'll give you a quick one on that one. People ask it what it like to sell out. saying the numbers weren't brilliant, so it's not life-changing money. I'd bought a lot of things. This is when we went to the property. I'd already started my dream with the portfolio before I got bought out. But they said, do you feel any different? And I always said, 10 silk cutting sock, £200 worth of cash in back pocket in case of emergency. I went and met my mates in pub, and they used to call me hot pants because I would always like that when it was time for a round, you know. So it were all the same lines. It's not changed, you know it. So all the same lines come out. Do you know what I mean? It would so I never had any change at all.
No, good. And then I suppose your love for sport came back in play, didn't it? Really, because you started Show Me the Money, your rugby league agency, and we all know why it's called it Show Me the Money, don't we?
Well, it's the opposite of it was the opposite. It was the God, honestly, T. I have no idea that I got asked to buy Doncaster Rugby League. That's what happened at first.
Okay, right. Okay.
I bought my own club. I lived in Leeds, and they said Doncaster Rugby League have got this massive.
Because you made some money, and
they said bring back the sheriff.
Everyone starts coming out shouting, "You invest here, help here, yeah."
Bring back the So I went back, and I'm like, I've no history in rugby league. Football's my love.
Yeah.
I ended up buying it with a friend, my friend Shane. You met Shane.
Yeah.
And we just had an absolute brilliant 18 month, amazing, learned everything. Lost a fortune.
Did you?
But business wise,
the club do well?
Improve the business. So the model, we got promotion in the first year.
Wow.
We broke the record of anything, corporate ticket sales, crowd, everything were cracking. But because we had this big stadium, which were costing like £6,000 for an home game, whatever it was in them days, it just couldn't, unless you got 4,000 fans, which would have took 5 years. Do you get me?
Yeah.
So you'd have had to put another million in to get it to that. And even then it wasn't, I had a cash-rich company. This was opposite. Yeah. This was something you had to love and believe in. Yeah. Maybe one day that you'd have this big club, and Doncaster have always been in Championship, Champ 1. Yeah. I don't think they've got the crowds to go to Super League, so it's not really a rugby league town. It's got some lovely supporters who were loyal. Yeah. And then I started to Show Me the Money on the back of meeting the great Danny Maguire at a golf do, which was, again, bizarre.
Yeah. You knew about rugby league at the time?
I knew about rugby league, but it had been
But you were just at a fan level?
A fan, and Hillary Hanley had been the legend to it, that type of... I'd hired Hillary Hanley at Doncaster, so we... Yeah. And then he came the year after, waited for me, and he said again, do you fancy being my agent? I've got an agent in London, but they don't talk to me. I said, well, I'm not surprised you've got a bad personality. And I just, what makes you think me? Because I just, he probably pushed me more than anybody. Like, he didn't push me. It was like, you can do it. And I said, do you mean like Jenny Maguire?
Yeah.
Show Me the Money. And it's like, I remembered the film.
You didn't say you looked like Tom Cruise then, did it?
I did in them days. I could do a bit in them days, but we're older now. But he's, I watched the film and I thought, he means that guy.
Be his man.
That were it. I met him, said, can I meet your family? Which you always do. He's only a young lad. You've got to meet the parents, see what's behind. Yeah. And he had more family than Dingles. It was like a middle, honestly. They had about 40 from East Leeds. He were bringing Grandad to meet him. It were like Butcher came in, Postman. And I'm sat at Bracken Park, big house. Yeah. And they must have thought, what a character he is. And I'm looking at them thinking, what
am I doing? Yeah.
Well, 2 weeks later.
Why did you say yes?
Well, 2 weeks later, I saw him play. I just watched this most natural talent I'd ever seen.
Right, okay.
You think he scored about 3 or 4?
But at the time, you didn't need the money. You were successful.
I never charged Danny.
Still to this day?
I don't want to say, but it was definitely not fun for you.
I'll send it to him this afterwards. But so you made the money. You had this, but why did you liked rugby league, but you weren't, I suppose, in love with it at the time, were you? Or
I'm a people's person.
Yeah. You just thought it's just something for me to do.
I thought I could develop some people who didn't have
help them.
It was
to help them. It wasn't to build a business.
We've now got 220 players.
Wow.
We've been very successful over the last 15 years. Not financial, definitely not financially. Still the same. We wouldn't. It don't pay for your 3 nights out in your will team. It wouldn't get you skiing where you pay for. But I've had better times with that than I did the company.
Wow.
I've gone. Danny Maguire presented me with his grand final winning ring. I've seen young lads from an estate playing in front of 80,000 at Old Trafford.
Yeah.
And the first person they want to say thank you to is they just look and
Yeah.
we call it the nod. Once they give you that nod,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just an appreciation of.
Yeah.
I think that the dream. Honestly, I can tell you things that'd be. We call it the kebab shop phone call. You might get a phone call at 2 a.m. I've just knocked somebody out in kebab shop. You have to sweep that up. You're the fixer. You have to do what you do.
Yeah.
You have to go and try and sort it out. You have to. There's so many things you have to manage. Honestly, and now there's a lot of agents from all over the world now. Our game now is being Australia's the biggest rugby league place in the world.
Yeah.
They are poaching all the best talent. So now you've got to try and hold on to them. The loyalty factor comes in.
Yeah.
It's a real tough game now.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Mad. Well, that's how we really met, wasn't it, at the beginning? Because you said to players, look, it's not like football, lads, and it's still not really like that in wages terms. And you said, you've got 10, 12-year career if you're lucky. You might make some good money, but then after that, what are you going to do?
Exactly.
And you were like, well, what we should do is I'm investing in property myself.
That's it.
There's lads in Leeds that will look after you.
Yep.
They're not going to just sell you something for the sake of it because that's not our business model.
Yep.
We'll try and help you where we can. And then what we'll do is we'll manage it for you. And then you've got an asset, hopefully giving you enough income or some sort of income after you retire. And I suppose it turns all the way back around to what you said at the beginning is you just like to spend time with the lads and you want to be, it's funny how it's done a full 360.
Yep.
You started that way, then you've had a business, then you've worked for your dad. Sorry, that you've worked for your dad, then you've done a business. And now you're back at it, running 220 players. You would have thought as an agency, that's a very successful agency. And it probably it is. But like you said on paper, it's probably not making a lot of money.
No.
But you're not doing it for that reason. You do it to help and be with the lads and have some fun. And that's probably why it's so special as well, because you're doing it that way. You're not doing it for the money. There's probably a lot of other agencies out there that are just doing it for the money and they want top players, don't they?
And being called you send shown with the money is a bit daft then, isn't it?
Yeah.
I walk in and you meet the parents and the player and you walk in.
Sign for no money.
Oh, God, when you walk in, they say, what's your company name? Even now I cringe. I actually kid now, I'm the notorious show with the money and they just laugh and I have to make a joke of it.
Yeah,
My nickname's the postman because I always deliver. There's all the bits so there's we have to make a bit of banter of it, but it's been rewarding emotionally for me give me so much without it being the waste company were about the journey and we become an animal, money making animal.
Yeah.
This was different and the properties. I built quite a lot of property as well, you see. So I've got involved in building
construction
from scratch.
Side. Yeah.
And I've also had the rents. But my first property, I think I just wanted to. I can remember watching people and thinking, what could you put your money in? This is true. This is where I can't spend it.
Okay.
Like my racehorse, I'm afraid of it gambling. I'm one of the lads again. I keep going back to it, but I'm certainly not somebody who's going to sit and just put money into an account and watch it.
No.
I got to the stage where I'm like, right, what can I do? And I was a bit scared, really.
You're saying bricks and mortar.
I had a few quid and bricks and mortar, and I thought, well, but how do I? And then I went and bought one. I think it was in Doncaster, and then it was like, what can I rent it out? And I'm trying to work out how much I need to do to beat the bank. That was always the question.
Yeah.
Can I beat what the bank were offering me? I think it was Coots offered me a fortune, tax-free, and I was like, what I never did more, I never put into my portfolio, if I buy the house for the right money.
Yeah.
So I would just put in what return it give me.
Yeah.
But I want to add in the equity, what if I could make.
If it increased in value, the equity would be, it's
and
a profit as well. Yeah.
And I didn't have enough research. I just thought, So I was a bit scared at the start. And then I was like, my God, I bought that for 35 grand. I've just sold it for 50 grand.
Yeah.
Or 55 grand.
Plus the rental income.
Plus the rental. Then I put it together.
Yeah.
Less me tax, which you don't understand that at first. You're like, everything's good, Certainly the lads I were asking for advice at the time never mentioned that there'd be some application with tax. So then you've got to learn that's a big part of that journey. Now I never set up really a separate company. Mine's always been a partnership. And that's how we did it. But again, with that, the journey of it, I have got it. I'd say when you do your first one and it's successful, it's dangerous, isn't it? Because you think, hey, I'm good at this.
It's good and it's profitable.
Oh, and then
there's not always ups, is there?
I've still not found the answer. Somebody said to me, is it residential or apartments? What's
Commercial,
the answer? No.
Oh, you mean apartments or houses?
and I still ain't got the answer.
No.
I said, you get a great joy with one, which is longevity, and not a lot of hassle if it's an house.
Yeah.
Apartments for the management companies, you know what it's like now, it's a lot more harder than it was when we first started.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are totally different. You've got a lot.
It's the government as well. They're not helping us in anything really. If we're being honest, we know the moment it's tough, isn't it? And they've put a lot of restrictions in place, and the management companies are, it feels like they're charging a lot, but they're trying to protect themselves and protect the freehold.
Got you.
And it puts the cost up, and insurance is so high, and it does feel like a lot more money. But
and that's why you're so important to the game, even more so when I first started, because I never really had. I just had my portfolio with me. I think when I first met you, I think you must have said how many houses you've got. I think I said like 30 or whatever I said. And
my eyes lit up, didn't they?
Yeah, I can't remember. I'm sure I said it might have been Jordan or what. Somebody said how many, and I'm like, I've got a lot.
Yeah.
And I was buying, and then I think for that 4-year period, I absolutely put everything in, and I loved it. I was buying anything that dropped in Leeds, Manchester.
Yeah.
I remember thinking when they sent me, I was always buying it. I just loved it. I loved the chase. Hey, I don't know if everybody's got this portfolio story. You tell me more than anybody. How many of that got away?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When you go past it, you go,
yeah,
I didn't do that now. I have some nightmares with that.
Yeah.
Because I can remember being offered that.
At whatever price it was. And now, hindsight's wonderful, isn't it? Imagine having hindsight if you could look back 10 years ago.
Gee, I reckon that if people ask questions.
The time you look at it, though, wouldn't you? And you go, well, that's a lot of money, that.
No, I didn't, because I had no fear. I literally, I had a pot of a couple of mil, and I was just hitting it like a gunslinger. So it wasn't that. I just used to, probably didn't have enough fun. I didn't listen to enough people. I was very straight, and I was like, right, yeah. You've got to, listen, if I could give people advice through my thing, get a good team around you. Yeah. Good letting agent, good advice. You need a
good accountant.
Certainly need some good tax people.
Yep.
You need to have people you trust around you. You need to have certainly maintenance people who you really trust and who you know you can send. And so you've got to get your team around you. And then secondly, I think you've also got to look at the next up and coming market. Where will it be next? Where will it be next? I look back at some deals we had at that time. I mean, Chandler's one.
Yeah. We think what you bought them for. Yeah.
And that should have bought. Do you know what? I look back now, Oliver. Is it Oliver?
Yeah.
Oliver had said, how many are you selling? And he's gone was selling the full building.
Well, we sold 130 flats. Well, we had 130 flats to sell between me and James, between us and Jordan. I did 100 and they did the 30. Wow. And we, you bought 5 from them.
We bought 5, but there were big players. And in total, I think we bought...
Oh, yeah, there wasn't many that
about 14, 12. Did they?
Across the players as well. Yeah. So you obviously brought some players in.
I should have bought 50.
Yeah.
I really, at that time, should have gone, right, I'll buy that block.
Yeah.
Because what were they, without being rude, were they about...
They were 60, 70 grand a piece.
We knew we could roll them at 100 in about...
2-3 years. If the market went where it went, and we knew the rents were where they were. And that's where, I said to you, give me what did I say? I think the first conversation we had to you, Jordan introduced me. Actually, he made the introduction to us, and he said, he said, T's got a letting agent. He's starting on the ground floor. He's helping sell these flats. I said, just give me a shot. Give me your 5, and give me a shot, and then we'll see about the rest of the portfolio.
Yeah, he did. And again, the first encounter, again, the confidence thing was just like, wow. I mean, Jordan, he would full of his,
Yeah.
He's the only person, I don't think we can say this without, it's a bit rude, but it's not rude. I'm sure you've got to have a bit of this, but he's the only person I've ever known who's walked into he booked us in at 11 o'clock to see see an apartment.
Yeah.
And he'd said to the people who live in there, we're coming at 11 o'clock. And he's got this blue blazer on, this yellow cravat, and he looks so flamboyant, Jordan, at that time. He's got confidence. I've never seen anything. And he opened the door. And as he opened the door, they were at it. There was this tennis well. And he didn't break stride. He said, "Oh my God, how dare you? I booked him for 11." And I'm looking and going, oh. I started running that way, and Jordan's rollicking them and they've like screaming, going, "Get out of my way, you!" And he just went, "How rude's that?" I went, "How rude are you?"
Yeah. You walked into their house.
You walked into that. And I can remember thinking, this is another level. And he at them times you bring up they were getting a lot of bank stock.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Redundant stock. So it'd be like, right, we've got 4 in Salford. I mean, that one, I bought a penthouse near Old Trafford for 120 grand. They offered me 6. Again, I made 65,000 in 15 months. Yeah. And I got massive
I won't tell you what they're selling for now.
Massive. I know. And do you know what? Oh, God, Jordan had said, he said to me, my sister's buying them. Yeah. Gabby. Yeah. She then didn't buy them because there's 5 available. And I again, do you know what it was that day? I couldn't be asked. I couldn't be bothered to drive to
Salford.
I swear to you.
No way.
I couldn't be bothered to go. And if we know when I finally saw them,
yeah,
the penthouse, the full penthouse, so you got a walkway around the apartment. Oh, wow. It's the best. You could have made $1 million. Without a shadow of a doubt, it was £1 million.
I'm some now, probably.
45-minute down road. So you've got to trust your instincts, and you get your team right, you trust your instincts. We've had.
But that's what you did. I mean, that's what you did with the players yourself. You came to me and you said, what do you think on this? What will it rent for? Be realistic. And I've always had that mentality through the business is, selling is easy. That's the easiest part, to be honest. But actually keeping clients and being honest with them is sometimes hard because you want to give them. Well, I hate it. I can't say you're going to get £1,000 for that rent when you know you're only get £900 just to keep you happy to buy it, to give it to us. I'm like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
And that, I suppose that's what you've done for the players is you've said, trust these guys. They're not your typical agents.
No.
If they'll tell you what it is, and if they think about it, they're not gonna tell you a price just to keep you happy. And that's quite a lot of the guys, and you have made some good money. You've not always done it. There's always things that go wrong in property. That's the risk you take.
True story, because James laughs about it now, doesn't he? And Jordan, I'm sure Jordan would, but I took the brother-in-law down, and I took him down, and he come with their portfolios.
The brother-in-law.
Yeah, my brother-in-law.
Oh, your brother-in-law.
You're talking their portfolio in London investment. It's £1 billion. Yeah. So he thought it was best buy ever. And then even then...
Well, what were they at the time? 45 grand a flop?
Yeah, 50 grand a pop. You can buy as many as you want. Yeah. And the value in 110. So I'm sat there...
Bradford City Centre.
And they're renting out. What they didn't tell you...
Yeah, they've always...
What they didn't tell you is what... they pulled it up at James's company. Yeah. That there was something in the lease with the car parks. They called it red alert.
Yeah.
So they'd said, you're not only paying ground rent, you're not only paying this, but you've got these car park which are attached to the lease that you can't get rid of, which then makes the 11% 7%.
Yeah.
Well, I'd already signed mine over when that comes through. All right. And then, first phone call to lads, we did, well, you never asked. I'm like, no. And we had a bit of fun. Luckily, we'd done well enough out the buying out. I would never think. But listen, to learn you've got to get some wrong, haven't you? No one's a Mr. in this book player. You've got to get some.
No, of course not. Yeah.
I think to learn in life, you've got to get quite a few of them wrong, and you learn.
And as a rental investment, they've paid a bit of money. They've not been as good as you first expected, but they've been okay. What they do say is it's the ironic thing, but it's do something you love, and it comes back to you did well in your waste business, but you've come the stuff you're doing now, with your son, with your family, is what you're enjoying, what you love, sport and people, and it just shows, it comes across in that way, and you're helping people. I think you genuinely, you gave me a chance because you saw me as, I want to help this guy. Yeah. I like him. First meeting, I like him. I want to help him out, and you gave me that chance that propelled me to be where I am now as well.
Good on you as well.
And I've called you. How many times I called you in the first couple of years asking for advice, and
loads.
Even this podcast, you said 2 years ago you should be doing a podcast.
Doing a podcast, you should be selling you because your personality and selling what you've done in your journey. And you, like I said, I know James is not thingy, but you again, your confidence is everything, and nice people. And James, when James used to start his company, I was saying with him, I'd seen a bit of myself in you. I can remember bringing Shane and saying these two just remind me. I said I can remember walking right corner when you've got that. These two have got it. I said they've just got it. It's just this beautiful thing that can happen. I would say to people, and that's what I'm hoping the podcast comes across, is that, listen, property's tough.
Yep.
I've not lost any money on anything I've bought in my old portfolio. Now, that takes some guts to say that, and I haven't.
Yeah.
Have I got some wrong with hassle? Oh my God, yes. You know, where I've known
You've had that. You mean I've had the hassle?
You've had
too.
the hassle. The bad.
We've both had the hassle.
Kirk's done.
Yeah.
Kirk's done.
Still ongoing.
Still ongoing.
Yeah.
We've also got the, you know, understanding what the developer, you know, I'd do a bit of background on the, you know, there's loads of tips we could give people and say, do you check the developer? Yes, you should. Where do you want to stop? Where's your goal? Where do you, because I've seen you from a young lad.
Yeah.
I've 1 or 2 clients to now. I don't even want to say what you've got now.
Yeah, we've probably 500 plus. Yeah.
So,
so we're I'm really ambitious still. I love what I do. So I love the business. I love the people. I love where we are. I love Leeds. We're ambitious too, and we've got a real good opportunity. And it's no disrespect to other agents in the city, but a lot of them are corporates, franchises, and it's my business. You know, I'm here every day. I'm involved in it, and I enjoy what I do. I love meeting my clients. Love with my team, and we're ambitious to double, triple the size of us in the next 3-4 years. But we've put our team in place. We've grown our offices. We have new offices. We're creating loads more processes. So we're getting to that stage where we've grown quite quickly, and we need to put processes in place, more processes, so we can grow, and the team in place so that when we do bring on more clients, we're not chasing ourselves. I don't want to be employing other staff and going, oh, we've got this new clients in. I want to go, we can bring these clients in because we have capacity. But I want to be the number 1 city centre agent in Leeds for sales and rentals. We want to be the go-to, trusted agency, a great team. People want to come and work for us. And it's not about the ego. I really want to create that cool company that everyone can work for, that want to, that clients want to come to us and have the best advice, and their property looked after, and tenants are happy, and landlords are happy, contractors are happy. You know, we had contractors coming the other day saying, we just love coming into your company. And genuinely, they said, we walk into other agencies and they're miserable. Nothing's organised. We come in here, you're saying hello, you're chatting to us. Again, friendships, creating friendships with everybody. Local contractors, we want to give them the work, but we want to make sure we're looked after. So you guys looked after, and tenants get a good response quickly, because there's nothing worse than tenants going, you've probably spoken to many tenants before, probably not with our stuff, let's say, and they've gone, I've not heard from my agent in a month, I've been reporting this issue. And that's the worst thing, because you don't know
you know, you said, I always think your job's hard. You're going to text a landlord or email out. Your system's very efficient now. You're banging there, you're saying, look, this needs doing. Yeah. I always think it's quite good that you say, we can do it for this. If you want to do it yourself, it's not a problem. I love that. Yeah. That's for me, giving people.
Well, we don't
why would they go with your company? And that's one of the biggest things. You don't bully that. You don't bully that situation. No. You're happy for that. If you have got somebody, if your mate's a joiner, you get your mate.
Well, you might want to do your mate to get the work as well, don't you?
You know it. And
think for us, we hand on heart can say this: we don't charge commissions from our contractors. Yeah. Every other agent does.
Got it.
But we don't, because we see our value in, we don't want to take on, being honest with you now, we don't really want to take on let onlys. We want to manage your portfolio. We want to charge our 10%.
Is that still from one? So if I've got one house or I've got 100 houses, have you still got the appetite to take the one house, or have you got?
Absolutely, yeah.
Have you got a bit big shotty?
No, we definitely haven't. Obviously, everyone likes portfolio landlord because it makes things easy. But no, no one's a number to us. It is a relationship. We don't charge commission because we charge our fee and we think that's fair. We're not the cheapest on the market. We're not the most expensive. We're probably in the middle. We want to make money, of course we do. We're a business. But yeah, if you want to use your own contractor, great. We recommend using ours because they're used to Leeds, they're used to the city. But some of the other stuff we've got, or you've got mates that want to do it, no problem. Yeah. We'll help organise access. We'll do it. The only time we'll be ringing the phone is going, you told you were sending this contractor, he's not here. And that's then down to you.
Work's then down to
it's not always your fault.
But I know my mates who've got a lot of houses, and that's a big thing for them is that. But I think we I always like the flexibility of that. And listen, it's weird you've just said you're still keeping you maintaining the one person, the 100. That's what I think a lot of people, they lose that. Not just in your business, in any business.
Yeah, I think
they're still not hungry to take on. Because I always think that one person who's got one house could be the one who has 300 houses. You never know.
No, you never know. No,
you never know, do you?
And I'm always, we've put the process in place now. I can't do, up to about 18 months ago, I was doing every single call to the landlord about maintenance, sending them offers through. I was doing too much. I was in the business too much and doing the day-to-day and not delegating enough. So, of course, I'm not there. I'm not the one you're getting emails from my team now about maintenance, but I'm always available on the phone.
You are.
So even if I am doing a nice holiday, like I like to have, if I am away, if I'm in the office, if I'm around, whatever time I'll pick up the phone. Apart from 8:30 when you called me the other night, but I was genuinely doing bath time with a little.
Got it.
But I called you back afterwards.
You did.
And that's the thing. I'm always available to anyone that's a client of ours at any time. If there's something going wrong, they want to speak to me, I'm there. I'm happy to take a call. So
I agree.
That's how we do. Where do you see property in Leeds in the next 10 years? What do you think?
If I were gambling, and I do gamble, so that's a daft thing to say. I would say there's always growth in Leeds, isn't there? I think Harrogate. So I live in Harrogate now.
Yeah.
So the difference between Harrogate and Leeds, I always
From
found
Donny to Harrogate, eh?
Donny to Harrogate. Who would have thought? I hope I end up back at Donny. No.
You do really?
Maybe one day.
If
but she won't let me.
She won't let you.
So we've got Harrogate. The renting in Leeds, the numbers were always better.
Yeah.
They just stacked up better.
Yeah.
You get a higher yield. You got a more. If somebody left, you never need anybody in Leeds. They just appear. I don't know how they do it.
We still don't have a
so
void
it must be the employment in Leeds must be that high.
A lot of good companies.
That's one of the biggest essential tools, I'd say. Well, gives Leeds better than anywhere. And I've had houses in Hull. I've had houses in everywhere. Rotherham, Sheffield, you name it. Huddersfield. Leeds is the best for that. You never get anybody. You literally out Monday, Tuesday. I don't know how they do it. It must be. I've noticed in Harrogate and them areas that doesn't happen as quick.
No.
That tenant doesn't appear as quick. Yeah. And the returns are not as high.
On a long period.
100%. Yeah. And it's a faster market in Leeds. It's a faster market.
Yeah.
So I would say always invest in Leeds because I think you'll always never known anybody. I'm on about probably 50 lads. Yeah. Never known nobody ever said I've lost money in Leeds.
No.
Good. Whether they're buying at the right time. But I've never seen somebody, oh my God, I bought for 220 and 5 years' time it's worth this. Leeds has steadily always had a little bit of growth.
Yeah, we've been a bit unlucky as well, really, because you've seen how Manchester's gone. We're big believers that COVID came at a little bit the wrong time. And we still see growth in Leeds.
100%.
Football team doing really well. That makes a big difference. If Leeds get promoted,
that's another one that we got away. Ellen Road, them apartments there.
There was a few next to Ellen Road.
Well, the full lot for sale again, and I wanted to go in. I took all the rugby lads. That were another one, but I think it's a brilliant, vibrant market.
Yeah.
But I would say Leeds is amazing.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of property on the outskirts of Leeds as well, not just centre.
Yeah.
So I think it's fantastic. I've never lost on any property in this area. Keep going. It's fast rent. It's brilliant rent.
Yep.
I've had two places. I had a penthouse in York and another place in York. I found that pretty tough.
Yeah.
I found it pretty tough. Going in York.
Roundtree. That was it, wasn't it?
It was tough. It wasn't easy, that one. It was a tough gig. For what you paid for it, the returns were quite low.
Yeah.
Compared to what you get in Leeds.
Yeah.
We're different.
Definitely.
For all the problems at Kirkstall, the rents are absolutely magical.
They are very good.
The returns are good. So
yeah.
I'd say keep going with Leeds.
I think that's property for you though, isn't there? Like I know we're talking about these couple of issues we've got across apartment blocks or other investments you've bought, but there's always something with property, isn't there? Even if you buy your own freehold house, for example, there's something, isn't there? The roof could go,
of course,
and you could be left with that by yourself. And we talk about the management companies having issues, but it's property. You can't if it was all that easy, then no one would make money.
So is it even more essential to make sure you bid more than the 10% before you start?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can't put a price on what you don't know.
No.
So make sure you're going lower because, like you said, I'm doing a house up now. I've been doing it for 5 years. I cannot believe, and this is the biggest tip I want to give you. I was going to write this down in my notes. Anybody buying a property, check the boiler. Check the boiler. Check the boiler. Because that boiler will go. You know that you will buy that property and there's never been a plumber in history gone out and said you need a new boiler.
Yeah,
you know it. They just walk up and they go, oh, you need a new boiler. So go in, look at your boiler, look how much lease it's got left on it. What's it called? Warranty.
Warranty, yeah.
Make that your biggest thing you do if you want to get involved in. I know it sounds a little thing, but I'm telling you, like I've had a month where you could have 5 new boilers.
Or water cylinders, tanks, yeah.
5,000 or 6,000 quid against your bottom line of your portfolio is horrendous. Yeah. And then they go, but and that's because I never checked. I walked into this new house. All I've learnt in all my years, 2 boilers. I ain't checked it. Both went within. I can't believe I didn't do it. A simple thing of checking the warranty.
Full refurb there, wasn't it? So you're gonna have to. You couldn't get away with the boilers, couldn't you?
But it sounds simple. But
you're right.
It's one that I'd have a look at. I'd have a look at that essentially straight away.
Yeah. Amazing. What would you want to be remembered for, Craig?
Borrowing money off you and not paying it back. I'd love to do that. I'd love to treat you for about 10 large, and then just say sorry to you. I've been a bit poorly. No. I would say the
note
crack.
to self: don't lend Craig money.
That's it. The crack. Be humble.
Yeah.
Listen, all them. When I've done it, I've had the Bentleys. Yeah. I've gone into the showroom and paid the 110 grand and said, when I've done the one where they've said, "Oh, I'll show you with the cars on the left." I've done it. I've got the story.
Yeah.
I said, "No, you better show me on the right."
Yeah.
And do you get money? I go, "No, I'm paying cash. I'm paying today."
Yeah.
Write the check today.
Yeah.
So I've done that one.
Yeah.
Keep yourself humble, because whatever goes up usually.
Yeah.
It's a famous saying, isn't it? I'll see you on the way down, darling. That's if you get to up yourself and you're coming down.
Yeah.
She was with her friends. My mum who dear love. My mum lost my dad who had a few quid. They both earned a few quid.
Your mum lost your dad a long time ago.
And she never married again. I know she wouldn't.
Yeah.
And a lot of wealthy people around her at the time, a lot of people who were affluent people, they want the one that, when she got her dementia, it were the ones that she had from 25 years ago.
Really? Wow.
Who showed the heart. It wasn't unfortunately in life, it wasn't the high flyers team or the people who loved her for her and who came and did it. So I would say keep your friends, some beautiful people around you. That's essential. Yeah. And you've got to have a laugh at any minute.
You've got to have a laugh. You've got to have a laugh.
If we can earn a few quid and a few smiles, it's got to be it, mate.
Yeah, definitely. And have a crack.
Yeah, and I'd like to have shares in your company next 5 years.
Great. Thank you, mate.